Oh, how you doing?
I'm grand. How are you?
Yay.
Ah, do you know, it's just so, and it suits you.
Oh,
It
thank you.
suits you so, like every time I see her in the background of your videos and things, I just think it just, I just love how your energy is just, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Well, thank you so much. Like literally everyone that I have a call with comments on her. So
Do you get tired of it?
no, not at all.
Like, oh,
I'm
for God's
always
sake,
like,
not again.
I know. I'm always like, no, it's amazing. Look, and I'm like showing different bits. So
Oh, that's fab. I love that.
yeah, it's
No, it
amazing.
really does. She suits you so well. And she she like, oh, this is aesthetic, but I love your silver hair next to her as well. It's just so much
She makes me
loveliness.
look good, so you know, I appreciate her. It's like,
That's what it's all about, right?
wow. There's
Never
so
mind
much.
the deep stuff.
No, no, that's. I thought that's what we're going to talk about here, like you know, all the superficial stuff, Zoe. So you know,
It's all about looking good. And there was
exactly.
me saying, just rock up in your pajamas.
Well, actually, I had a photo shoot this morning with Becky, right? So,
Oh, amazing.
so Carly Unbound is featuring a lot in that. Oh, I'm
Let it out, love.
coughing with the superficialness.
Yeah, it's like a furball.
It is. Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I've had a little
Okay.
bit of that recently, and I don't think it's particularly physical. I think it is kind of more like, gotta get it up.
Yeah. No, definitely. I've had like I don't get too much throat stuff now, and it's but I've had it, and it's not not all the time, but there's just something there. Like
Yeah,
every now and again, I'll be like, oh, something going on there. I just need to
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
let it
for
move through.
sure. Oh, well, Nicola, it is just lovely to chat with you today. I would like to know, who is Nicola, and how has she changed since she was a little girl, if at all?
Oh my goodness, that is that is deep. It's really interesting because like, I've been journaling on truth this morning and my truth, and
Yeah,
I was on a call with someone yesterday who's interested in writing a book, and she was talking about her story and just saying how she struggles with telling the truth like in her writing, and it was like a throwaway comment almost, just part of the conversation, but that really like struck me. I thought,
yeah.
yeah, I know that. So when you ask me who is Nicola, it's like, well, who am I? Oh my goodness.
Sorry to start you just right in at the deep end.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, my immediate response would be to say that I have changed a lot since I was little. But actually, if I go right back to when I was like little, like those first few years, then
Yeah,
I'm probably, you know, in a lot of ways very similar to that. It's just the whole middle bit where there was a lot of like adaptation and modifying myself, and you know, that place where I became like bound up in expectations or
yeah,
even perceived expectations of what others wanted from me. So you know what comes through, I just asked the question, who is Nicola? Actually the words like an artist came through. I'm an artist, I'm a creator, you know, which
yeah.
all are, but I'm able to say that now.
Yes, yes.
there was a part of me, even then, when the word came artist, I'm like, oh, I can own being a creator, but artist, no, because I don't do stuff like this, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and actually, I am unbinding. It's like continual unbinding. That's happening as I'm speaking to you now, like noticing the thing about the artist, noticing the
Yes.
thing about, you know, what is my truth. It's like that continual process of um, curiosity, I suppose, and
Yeah,
noticing where I where I hold back and where I don't allow my truth to come through. Does that make sense?
definitely, definitely. I can totally relate to the whole process of, you know, there's always more. There's there's always more to unbind ourselves from, and it's
Mm,
never done. And that's okay, actually, because when I first kind of learnt about this process, um you know, I remember kind of really beginning to start to understand and expose myself to more kind of, you know, philosophies about energy and how it affects us and how we go through our own cycles and all the rest of it. And I honestly remember thinking, I've got to do this again. You
mm,
know, I've like been through so much. I've got to keep doing that. And and of course, as you kind of peel away and you kind of let go of more and you grow through it, it's not that it becomes easy, but there's a certain, I don't know what the right word is, but there's a certain level of acceptance and surrender, and also kind of acknowledgement that it's temporary,
yeah,
that, you know, that on the other side of whatever hardship, whatever challenge you're going through, that it might be a little bit faster this time, first of all, that you have the tools, that, you know, you might not necessarily follow them or use them, but you have the tools and the understanding that of how to make it easier, even in
mm,
a little kind of, you know, or quicker. And then on the other side, there is going to be a level of growth and expansion as well.
yeah,
And that somehow makes the whole process and the whole kind of spiraling again and again okay.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, you know, I think or certainly there's a part of me that resists answering the question, who is Nicola? Because I don't want to, I think in the past I felt boxed in by
Yes.
the like labels that have been associated with, either I've kind of labeled myself or I felt labeled by others. So I kind of, I'm okay with like artist, creator, because it feels like there's a lot of movement there, and
It's
you know,
fluidity, yeah.
exactly, that's really important to me, and that sense of freedom. Um, yeah, I don't want to kind
No,
of,
I love that. And
yeah,
I think that's such a beautiful answer as well, because that, in you saying that, that gives other people permission to say, well, actually, I don't need to label myself, even if it's, you know, good labels,
well, that's the
or,
thing, yeah.
you know, kind of exciting, expansive labels. It still doesn't need to come down to that, because we're so much more, and we are always, unless we intentionally or maybe sometimes unintentionally prevent ourselves, we are always growing and changing.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that's such a lovely answer. Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
And what do you think little girl Nicola would say about your journey?
She would love the fact that I'm a writer. You know, that's what I do, and I get to spend my days kind of writing myself or working with other people, helping them to write, and that I'm surrounded by books. She would love that,
Yeah.
just because she just, that's what she loved doing. She loved writing, she loved reading.
Yeah.
um and I think, you know, that's what I always wanted to be when I was little. So little Nicola would be really happy. with that. And what would she think? What would she think? I'm just kind of tuning into her. Do you know what? There's a part, it's quite interesting tuning in, because I think from a very early age, like many of us, I was kind of taught to kind of rein myself in.
Yeah.
And only because, you know, that's what probably my parents had experienced in their lives when they were kind of being brought up.
Yeah.
So I'm not, there's no kind of judgment here.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of that kind of conditioning. So I think little Nicola would like be a bit almost like asking the question, oh, but is that okay to be like, you know, what you're doing
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like, you know, a little bit, yeah. You know, when I tune into it, that's what I
Yeah.
get. And like I can let her know, yeah, it absolutely is okay. But I think there is this there is still a little bit of that there. Like,
And
is
is
it
she
okay?
asking as well? Is she also asking, what's it like? Because that's what I think, that's what my little girl would say. It's like, what's it like? Wow.
Well, yeah, and I think it's almost like difficult to comprehend. I think the world we live in now, I think my little Nicola would find it quite hard to comprehend, like what it's like.
I think adult Nicola
I
probably
know,
does.
yeah. Just about barely. Kind of like, hang on. No, completely. So I think there's this almost sense of like little Nicola, like standing almost on the outside, like, is it okay to come in? Because it might feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, not just in terms of, you know, who I am and what I'm doing kind of on a day-to-day basis, but just this world. Like when I see her, she's in the forest, because my
Oh,
grandmother on my mum's side, she lived in the New Forest, and so we used to kind of go down there every Saturday to see
amazing.
her. When I see her, she's there, she's in nature. So I think there'd be a part of her that's like, oh, I don't know, I might just want to stay in the in the forest actually. You can come and see me there, but I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of responsibility with the work and the paths that we've chosen as well in sharing it, and that can be super scary, especially for, I think of, my little girl. She would, I was quite a loner. I had friends and stuff, but I loved being, I still do love being alone,
Yeah,
honestly. But yeah, that responsibility to kind of share yourself more and being so vulnerable in all that entails as well. I think I would have been quite terrified of the idea of that. And sometimes I still am.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, I definitely think that's part of it, because I was alone. I love books, I loved reading. Like little Nicola, she would just be there with her nose in a book, like reading,
Same.
you know. So, and I do feel that sense of responsibility for myself and my own work, and also more so now because of the Unbound Press and like
Yeah.
the community of authors that we're growing there. Like, I feel that sense of responsibility to them.
Yeah.
I want to be showing up to kind of showcase their magic as well and
Yeah.
holding space for that. So, and I love doing it. But yeah, I think little Nicola would be like, what? I thought, being a writer was just kind of like tucked away in a
being
den
in,
somewhere.
yeah, being in an attic, just like
Exactly.
with your notebooks and
Yeah.
some ink.
Yeah, just venturing out into the world occasionally, but
Isn't it funny how we have, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but we have those kind of Dickensian like
I
notions.
know. Yeah, yeah. But even like back in the 70s, I definitely think it was more like that than it is, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, I I say Dickensian, actually I think my image in my head is a bit like Joe in Little Women.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she just happens to kind of get her book published, you know, she just walks into somebody's office and they like go, well, let's publish it.
Happens all the time. Oh.
I like, so one, possibly your favorite word is unbound.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Yeah,
tell us what that means to you?
yeah. Um, well, it's definitely the word I use most, and I do absolutely love it. And also, some days I'm like, why did I ever choose to work with this word? You know, the energy of
Yeah.
the word, because um, it can be really fierce actually, and
Yes.
um, like the word unruly is coming up for me a lot for me lately, and it can feel quite unruly, kind of that the energy of unbound. But what it means to me is, well, I mean, how I came to it in the first place. I was working with my core desired feelings, working
Yeah.
through that process with Danielle Laporte's book, The Desire Map. And the word, like one of my feelings, initially it was freedom, but that just didn't do it for me.
It's quite woolly, isn't
It
it?
was very woolly. It just feels like, I don't know, very insubstantial. I just couldn't, it
Yeah, you
didn't do
can't pin it to
anything.
it. Yeah.
With words, if I don't feel them in my body, then you know,
Same.
yeah.
Same.
So I was like looking through, I think I actually had like an actual thesaurus. So I was looking through it. And one of the words I saw was unbound. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, that does something. And I think it's like the freedom side of it is obviously important. But what's important for me is it kind of acknowledges the fact that something has previously been bound.
Yeah.
And actually, I had a really felt sense of that, like something literally just being unbound, and that sense of
Yeah.
relief that comes afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the definitions of unbound was without a cover or binding, which
Oh,
like
wow.
relates to books as well. And at the time, you know, I wasn't an author myself, and I didn't know that my future kind of lay so much in books, but I just loved that definition.
Yeah.
and and the sense that it can be this continual process of unbinding as well. That's really important to me.
Hmm.
It's not static.
Yeah.
um and sometimes it might just be that little release, you know, just something like really small is
Taking off
unbound,
your
but
bra.
well, yeah. Exactly.
That
You
feels
know how
great.
good
Yeah.
that feels.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Oh, yeah. No, I totally, I really love your use of it as well. It just relates to so much, I think, of the feminine that it has been tied up for centuries, and that we are, yeah, it is about, it's burn all our bras. It is about that releasing of the feminine into the softness and the, you know, the kind of our innate wisdoms, and allowing all of that, allowing it all to be expressed,
Mm.
because we haven't been allowed, and it's been so, even just covertly suppressed and bound up, so that we've accepted it, you know,
Yeah.
just like we've accepted wearing bras, which, you know, nothing against them, I'm wearing a bra top today, but you know, it is what it is. It's, yeah, there's so much that we are continually just trying to kind of uncover about the feminine aspects of ourselves, and re-acknowledging.
Yeah, yeah, and remembering. I
Yes.
do feel it's a process. This process of unbinding is a process of remembering. Like really just coming back to who we truly are. And I'm kind of, it's interesting. I can't think of the right word to use here, but there's almost a part of me that's grateful, like for the journey that I've been on and the bindings that I kind of picked up along the way, because that sense of release is
Yeah.
like so much more powerful, because I know what it was like to have, to feel bound. And also, as I'm saying this, I'm like so aware that I'm a white cis kind of able-bodied work,
Yeah.
so when I'm talking about being bound, it's very much through that lens.
Yes.
But yeah, that almost kind of physical sense of something being released is, yeah. And actually I don't wear bras anymore. Maybe I just like a bra top I'd be trying to go for, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I was I think part of my unbinding honestly was, in so many ways, going through my massive healing crisis, and I couldn't wear a bra or even a crop top or anything because my skin was so sensitive. All I could wear was like really loose kind of, or sometimes quite tight, but it had to be pure cotton.
Yeah.
Pure woven cotton, so it was breathable. And yeah, so even when I started back teaching yoga again, I wasn't wearing a bra. And actually, the irony of it is, guys, or rather girls, is that your breast tissue and all of the kind of muscles and everything, they learn to support themselves.
It's amazing how the body does this, isn't it? Like, who knew? Like, if we get out of the way.
And I say that as a big breasted woman, and I always have been. So there's no excuse.
I get that feeling of sensitivity. I can't believe we're just talking about boobs now, but there you go. Exactly. Like, our bodies will always kind of let us know in one way or another. So yeah, I completely like the thought of actually wearing like a proper bra like I used to wear back in
I
the
used to wear underwired bras.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I wouldn't wear anything else. I was like,
Me too.
Bras are the way forwards. I used to love wearing corsets.
Yeah.
And I just think about all of that now, and I was like, I have a corset actually still in my closet, and in my closet. I never call it that, but that word popped out.
Yeah.
Literally in my closet. And I just look at it and I think, I'm never going to wear that again, because unless I'm like really dressing up, pantomime style for something, when are we going to get to do that again?
Who knows?
I hate that feeling of constriction. I really hate it.
Yeah, literally, I can feel it as you're talking about it. It's like, no, not for me.
Bonkers. And that wasn't so long ago. I had it made for me. It wasn't just off the shelf. I had it specially made by a really amazing seamstress. But yeah, it's just sitting there now and I feel really bad.
But it's so interesting, isn't it? How things can shift like quite quickly.
Yeah.
And I know when I started on this path, when I left my job in finance and kind of started the process of retraining or just trying to find my way, like what do I want to do? And when I look back at myself then, or even like, a few years ago when I was like dyeing my hair and, just like physically I felt and looked very
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
I just, it's not that I wouldn't want to do that now, but I just couldn't. And it's the
Yeah.
same with like the bra thing. Like our
Yeah.
bodies just go, no, I can't. Or the
Yeah.
corset, I couldn't do that anymore. So we
Yeah.
kind of reach these points, I think, where it's like actually there's kind of no going back from that.
Yeah, there's a clear boundary, and I think
Yeah.
definitely that comes with getting older for
Mm.
most of us. I do wonder about, you know, the kind of the generation who are in their late 20s, kind of going through their 30s now, whether it's the same for them or different. I don't know whether it's just some, you know, that kind of cycle of kind of saying, right, no, I'm just going to say no to all of that stuff I used to say yes to, or whether some of that is, excuse me, is just part of our society now as well, is that actually this stuff isn't okay. It's not okay to say, you know, it's unhealthy. Like this is quite superficial, but actually not, because it's our bodies.
Yeah.
It's unhealthy to wear a bra
Yeah.
because, you know, it cuts into your lymph nodes and all the rest of it. And is it are we now as a society actually saying out loud, these things are not okay, and we're going to say no to them? Or is that part of just aging? I don't know, bit of both.
I do feel there's generally like a greater sense of questioning.
Yes.
um I don't know, there's almost two sides to it, because like you can look at social media and just see there's so much kind of superficiality out there, but also I just think there is as well this kind of rising up of truth and realness,
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, I've noticed it for myself more as I've got older, but I see it in a lot of young people now as well, and it's like, yeah, like
Yeah.
that gives me a lot of hope. I mean, I'm perimenopausal at the moment as well, so I think you get to a point where
Yeah.
it's like your body just won't let you do anything that doesn't feel aligned or good, or if you try and override that, you know, the symptoms you can experience are so kind of uncomfortable. It's like, hang on, I've got to listen to
Yeah,
got to
definitely.
listen to my truth now.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah. You become so well attuned, I think. Not everybody, you know, I definitely know people who they talk about some of the kind of symptoms in their life, and that's not just necessarily you know, bodily symptoms, and it's the same things I hear every time I talk to them.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, well, what's changed? What are you kind of, you know, moving through? How are you moving through that? Or so yeah, it's not all of us.
No, but I'm not surprised about that, because we're conditioned, you know, to look at things in a certain way, and also not to recognize our own power and how we can, you know, move through things. Often, you know, if we are experiencing symptoms, that it's not something that's just happening to us, that we can kind of like listen to the message that's
Yeah.
there. So yeah, I think, and maybe now more than ever, like that conditioning is so strong that, you
Yeah.
know, just listen to
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what
And it's
others
hard.
say.
It is, no, you're right, it is really, I think I can be a bit blasé about it sometimes, because I feel like I've got to that point where, especially having gone through a massive healing crisis, that it just inverted my whole world, you know. And I think there's just so much from that that I learned to really see clearly, and you know, more and more and more every year. And when you start to see that for yourself, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you've, especially when you've experienced it, you know, it's not just kind of seeing it through somebody else's eyes or opinions or beliefs. You know, it's not just kind of following celebrities and their views. It's really experiencing it for yourself. And yeah, that's where the real kind of change, it just kicks in. It just has to.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think there's a timing piece to it, because I know for me, like I could have read something or seen something or seen someone talking about something like over and over again,
Yeah,
and it just doesn't land. It
yeah,
doesn't land. And then all of a sudden I'll see exactly the same thing, and it's like, okay, I'm
yeah,
ready to receive this now. And it, you know, again, I can feel it in my body, like, yeah,
yeah,
my body's responding to this. And it may not be that I've kind of had a particular symptom or experience, but it's just, I don't know what it is, but suddenly something gets activated and it's like, oh, okay. And I think I've learned to trust that more for myself. I
yeah,
think in the past I maybe judged myself for that, or maybe judged others. You know, it's like, well, why aren't they listening to this? Or, you know, why aren't they able to see it like this? And like you said, I think we need to, like, we have to have our own experience. And yeah, and I'm not quite sure exactly like I said, how that timing piece works, but I'm like really noticing that more and more, how like my body will let me know when the time is right for something,
yeah.
and trusting that rather than trying to override it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. Is there, so on that note, is there like maybe this happens to you regularly, or maybe you can kind of pinpoint a specific time where you just felt so deeply connected to your own core truth that it was beyond mind, beyond kind of analysis, beyond all of that, and it was just so deeply felt in your body?
I think times like that for me, I think it pretty much always happens when I'm in nature, actually. And it's not when I'm doing anything, but very
Yeah.
much in that being place. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because then that reminds me of little Nicola. Like, she's in nature. She's just like, why would you want to not be in nature? You know?
Yeah.
So she's definitely kind of onto something there. But those are the moments when I'm not thinking about, well, what do I need to do? Or like, I'm not even in creative mode. It's just
Yeah.
like literally in that place of being. And those are the moments. And it might be, oh, it's going to sound a bit cheesy now, but you know, like seeing like, or hearing a bird singing, or, you know, seeing
Yeah.
like something in nature and just feeling that deep sense of connection to myself and all that is, kind of when I just got out of the way of myself.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, oh, she's gone offline. I can actually pay attention. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and I think that's why, or certainly one of the reasons why I love kind of getting out into nature. And by nature, I mean, like, you know, even if it's just like to the local, up to the common near where I live, and just kind of having a walk for half an hour or an hour,
Yeah.
you know, that I need that. I need that space. And it might just be, you know, a couple of minutes out of that where I feel this sense of connection. And it probably doesn't happen every day, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely not. But yeah, and just recognizing how powerful those moments are, and maybe not having the expectation that they're going to happen all the time, or trying to make them happen.
yeah.
But like, though, I was just having a conversation with a friend actually, and just like talking about space and time, and like always needing to leave more space, or wanting to leave more space, and how everything happens in the space. You know, we think it happens in the doing, and it
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
It happens
Oh, the
in those
space.
moments when
Yeah.
we're out of the way.
I love I love this is one of my my kind of pet topics, because one of the biggest things that I explore in my work is space with people, and the permission that we do or don't give ourselves space to, in my work for example, not just to move our whole body, but to allow complete freedom of movement, which means you've got enough space so that you're not knocking against things when you
Mm.
expand, but also you have that energetic space as well. And I really think that space these days to us is seen as such a luxury in terms of that personal space. I don't care how big your house is, it's nothing to do
Mm.
with that. It's about how you allow that freedom of movement or you don't. And that can be as simple as, honestly, you know, the way you hold yourself.
Mm.
And, you know, do you get up and stretch and kind of, you know, really stretch, or kind of jump around and like take up space? Or do you just kind of go, yeah. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's kind of like, because I do feel that that energetic component in particular can be so contracted.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we all go in and out, you know, regularly through cycles, and we can intentionally expand that bubble around us, or we can intentionally, for needs of safety or nurturing, we can contract it a little as well. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that, but it's about learning about how that feels and how it affects you. And that, I do think that permission piece is huge, huge. And like you were saying about giving yourself that space to kind of let things process, let ideas or nuggets or downloads or whatever you want to call them to process, so that you're not just kind of going, well, what can I do with this
No.
all the
No.
time.
Exactly. You've got to give them space, you know,
Yeah,
to kind of evolve and grow, and or not, you know, it's
yeah,
fine. Maybe it's just kind of for that moment. We don't have to be doing something with every little idea that comes
yeah,
through. And that's been a big piece for me.
yeah,
I think because it took me a long time to kind of connect with, I don't know, my intuition, like higher self, whatever it is. I would think like every little thing that comes through, oh my God, I've got to write something about that. I've got to share it. I've
yeah,
got to kind of, you know, create something around it. It's like sometimes it's just for you, it's just for that moment, and you don't, and there will be more. You don't have to follow
yeah,
every little thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And trusting, again, trusting the timing of things, and that um actually leaving that space can be even more powerful than just continually kind of acting on things and putting
Yeah,
them out
yeah.
there.
No, I totally agree with that as well. That's definitely something I'm still working on, in terms of, we've got all these ideas and I was up at 3 a.m., you know, downloading this stuff. So I've got to do something with it. And actually, sometimes it is just a stepping stone to the next thing that really does just kind of unfold naturally. and it is easy to expand into, and you don't have to kind of go, well, how do I do this? Because it's just part of that process.
And the energy of it in some way will be infused into kind of whatever you are creating
Yeah.
kind of next. And I've really learned to trust that with books. We don't need to put everything into them. Like, people will experience. You really don't. People will,
Yeah.
you know, experience or have a sense of everything that you've experienced, like during the writing process, from your words, even if you're not kind of like going into all the detail. Like, people will receive what they need. So
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that I really struggle with is with the verbal modality, is because it's so closely linked with our critical mind, is to turn that part off as much as possible. Because and it is possible. I've definitely had those moments, but I find with my visual work it's so much easier just to go into that completely embodied, intuitive, energetic space and just literally just sink into it. You know, it's not saying that my mind goes offline completely, but it's so much quieter, it's so much easier to tune it out. Whereas when I'm writing, it just seems to be a constant companion.
Yeah.
It's like sitting right there and then kind of like nattering away going, do you sure you want to use that word?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. I think that's why I tend to write in like really short bursts. And then when I notice kind of the more critical mind
Yeah.
creeping in, it's like, okay, I'm done for now. And
Yeah.
I'll very often, yeah, that's it. I don't want you involved. And very often I'll go for a walk first. So I'm like really kind of in that place of connection, then come back and
Nice.
write. But if I notice, and I don't always notice it, but when I do, like, I can feel that the critical mind is creeping in, I'll name it on the page. I'll be like, hang on, like, what's going on here? Like, I notice myself kind of judging that word that
Yeah.
I'm using, and I literally just write it onto the page and can almost have a conversation
Oh,
with kind of
wow.
my critical, like, if there's something coming up for me, and I kind of encourage writers to do this, like,
That's
rather than think,
amazing.
oh, it's like, just bring it onto the page and
Wow.
see
Yeah.
where that leads. And very often that can, like, you know, just kind of clear it again. You kind of can move
Yeah.
around all through it. Sometimes not, and it's like, okay, not
Sometimes
today.
I'll write little you know, the little post-its you can put in, I can't remember, like they're called comments or something, but you can
Yeah,
put little post-it notes basically in your writing, so you can highlight a section. And sometimes I'll say, this word isn't quite right, but I can't find the right word, but it means kind of this.
yeah,
And so I can come back to it
yeah,
rather than
exactly.
that sticking in my brain and going, that's not right.
Yeah. And maybe when you come back to it, you realize it is right.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I've definitely had that experience. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can't quite find the words.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of get something down, and then I'll come back to it. And it's like, oh no, that's okay actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or like you say, the words come later. But yeah, I think the thing is to keep that sense of movement, like, as you know, talking about in the body as well. Like, if we can keep ourselves moving on the page as much
Yes.
as possible, without kind of really going over everything and analyzing it,
Yeah.
then that's the freest place.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. And so what's your process then when you write? Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, it varies. Like, if I'm working on a book and I know, like, generally what the theme is going to be, um, then I will, it really varies, actually. I'm trying to make sense of it. I've written a book about writing, but still.
Yeah.
It really does depend on the day, to be honest. Because, there will be times when I'm showing up every day for my writing, particularly if I'm working on a book. But it is, for me, that they're always relatively small kind of chunks of writing time. So it might just be like half an hour a day or something.
Yeah.
And I just come to the page. I write by hand because for me,
Yes.
like initially, certainly, I need it to come through in that way. I just have more of a felt sense of the words and a deeper sense of connection. And I do usually just try and get out of the way as much as possible and literally be like, right, what wants to come through today? Even if I'm working on a book, there might be times towards the end where I'm bringing everything together and I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to write something about, I don't know, whatever it is, to like make more sense of this and kind of help the reader journey. But for a long time, it's just like, well, what wants to come through? And literally just asking that question on the page and just letting the words come.
Wow.
Trying not to judge them as much as possible. Yeah. And then, trusting that it will start to kind of form a coherent whole at some point, but not having that expectation that it will come through in a linear way, like, so allowing it to be non-linear, like, maybe that feels like I'm jumping around all over the place, and that's okay. So yeah, it's a very kind of intuitive approach, which is, it can be really challenging, and I found it really, I couldn't really do it in any other way when I first, when I came to write my first book. All of the advice out there just felt much more kind of structured and linear, and like you've got to have a plan and everything. And the more I tried to do that, the more restricted I felt. So I was like, well, I'm just going to approach this like I would if I was just kind of journaling. I know it's not journaling because like this is for my book. So it did have a different quality, or I had a different relationship with it, but it was just like, I'm just going to see what wants to come through.
That's amazing. I really, really love that approach. And again, that really just, it's allowing that feminine kind of aspect of ourselves out. And I really relate to it as well, because I have struggled so much with feeling like, and I think partly because the publishing world, across all media, has been quite a masculine led environment. Therefore, everything that they require is very structured and very kind of, even down to kind of send us a book proposal and it's got to have all of these things in it. And I've been really sucked into all of that. And yes, it can help, definitely. And I think, I needed to go through the process of writing a book proposal for myself, to kind of, to delve into all of the aspects of it that I wasn't willing to look at before. So things like, marketing myself and who I really am, and all of that kind of stuff is just kind of, when I'm just sharing my message, I tend to kind of go, I can't be bothered with all of that. I'll just focus on this little piece of me. And actually you do need the whole picture. So I think it was useful for me in that respect, but it also stifled me. I think I might have said this to you recently, that actually part of it was, once I'd done the book proposal and some sample chapters and all of my kind of, I had the whole book outlines, all of the chapter headings, everything, had the whole vision there. And so in a sense, I felt like I'd written it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm kind of like, well, I'm just going to move on now.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of done. So what? You mean how do you have to write it? No.
Yeah.
It can take the sense of mystery out of it. And, you know, particularly as creative beings, which we all are, I think deep down we love, I don't know, it's kind of like there's two sides to this as well. Like in some ways we love, there's this kind of conditioned need for everything to be known, but there's a
Yeah.
part of us who loves that sense of the unknown and exploration and mystery. And when we start from this place where it's all mapped out and we know exactly what we're doing and we've just got to show up and write those chapters and we know what the chapters are and what's going to be in them and like who it's for and how we're going to share it, and it's like it doesn't feel
Yeah, you're so right. That you've hit that. Honestly, you've hit the nail on the head. That is just absolutely spot on. Because I'll tell you that I'm also just to kind of just as a hobby and something to keep, you know, some of my spark alive. I'm writing some fiction at the moment as well. And I kind of pop in and out of it, usually on a Sunday afternoon or something, but whenever really. And I do have a vision for it, but it's all in my head.
yeah
You know, I have some notes, but it's just sparks of things. It's nothing particularly linear. I honestly don't really know where it's going, but I know what the elements of it are. And when I go to write a piece, it's very much like, this is the bit I want to write today.
yeah
And it could just be like a little the tiniest little scene, or, you know, kind of description or whatever it is. And I love that because it's for me it's kind of like, you know, when you have a really good book to read
yeah
and you don't know where it's going and you just
yeah
immerse yourself in it. It's kind of like that, except I'm writing.
Exactly, but that's the way it can be, and how amazing is that?
Yeah,
Because then you're feeling like really excited as you're writing it, which means your reader will feel that as they're reading it as
yeah,
well. So yeah, it's like you take yourself on like your own little magical mystery tour and you don't quite know where it's going to end up. That's what I'm kind of interested in, that approach to writing, which is not for everybody. And yeah, there are times, you know, when you need more structure and it's helpful to know who the book is for and how you are going to be sharing it in the most powerful way and all of those things.
yeah,
Absolutely. But I think if we can keep ourselves in that kind of really creative, fertile, mysterious place,
yes,
magical place for as long
yeah,
as possible, then yeah, that's when you start to bring through kind of ideas that you could never have imagined, you know, if you were just sitting down
yeah,
kind of map it all out. So
yeah, absolutely. And I, you know, in my fiction specifically, but at other times as well, you know, I've written things and I didn't know they were coming out. I was
yeah,
like, and you kind of go, oh, where did that come from?
I love that so much.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, you literally don't. And it's the same when I'm painting. Honestly, that's how
Yeah,
I paint, is I have an energetic intention behind it, and I might have some ideas of colors and such to go with that, but other than that, it really is very much I'm just in it, and
yeah,
a channel, if you like. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think, you know, the most powerful, or one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself, like when you're starting to write a book or wanting to write a book, is, well, it's two, like how do I want to feel as I'm writing this? You know, it might not be that you want it to feel mysterious, you know, that may not be the case.
yeah,
I'm just talking like magical, that might not be, you know, whatever it is for you. And also, how do you want your reader to feel? Like if someone picks up your book, how do you want them to feel? And then, like, right from that place, what's going to help you to feel like that? How can you infuse your words with
yeah,
those qualities,
yeah,
than thinking too much about the content as you're
yeah.
beginning?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Oh, so on board with all of that. And you have such an amazing, like, ever expanding group of writers now as well,
Yeah.
which must be, I mean, just looking at that and knowing that you've grown that, how does that feel?
It definitely feels to me like the Unbound Press is an entity of its own, um, which is how I think of books. Like they all have their own kind of like an essence of their own, and you get
Yeah,
to kind of collaborate with them. But it feels, I don't know, I'm just so grateful that I get to do this and to hold
yeah,
space for it. And it's interesting as kind of a publisher, which is, I don't think of myself as a publisher. You know? I mean, for me, the most, or certainly one of the most important things about the Unbound Press is that, like, that it's a community
yeah,
rather than a publishing company kind of
yeah,
by itself. Um, but I'm just really interested, you know, we were just talking about ways of creating, of painting and writing books. I'm interested in like a different approach to publishing as well, and one that's got space for like not knowing, like not having to have it all mapped out at the beginning. And I
yeah,
love having conversations with authors when they're just like, you know, I just know that I need to write a book, or I want to write a book and I'm not
yeah,
quite sure what it's going to be about, but you know, I've kind of got these sparks of ideas. I'm like, yes, I love that. Like, let's go on the journey together and see
yeah.
where it leads us. So yeah, it's such a joy. And you know, I've said this right since the beginning when people were coming to us who were interested in being authors. Like, I don't know where this journey's going to take us. It's like ever evolving, and what the Unbound Press might kind of grow or evolve into. But there's this sense of like alchemy, because it's like this process of co-creation. Like each of the
Yeah.
books stands alone, but they're all part of this greater whole as well. So there's just lots of potential for magic, basically, which is
I
just
love it.
incredible.
I love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I think honestly, for me, the Unbound Press is like an up to date, much more magical Hay House. I really feel that and I don't know if that's something you'd agree with, but I really feel like it's for me it has that place of being so authentic and so soul driven.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I no, completely get that kind of that correlation. And I think for me, what's, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen at Hay House, but I think with a more traditional publishing model, there's always the kind of question of, okay, well,
Mm,
what's going to be most successful, what's going to
exactly.
be most marketable. So what I love about like the model we have at the Unbound Press is that we're able to just trust like the books that are coming through
Yeah.
without having to kind of put them into this box where it's like, okay,
Yeah,
we're not
that's
watering
gonna be
anything
on the New
down.
York Times bestseller, or that's gonna sell 100 million copies or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's kind of the most important thing. Like I said, like community is important, but also that for each author who works with us, like it's the truest essence
yeah,
of what they're wanting to share that comes through, and it's not going to be kind of watered down to make it more um marketable. It's like, no,
love it.
trusting
I
that
love
it,
that.
yeah, it will work the magic that it's meant to work, um, when it's coming through in its truest form. So
Yeah,
that's something that's really important to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is so powerful, and such a wonderfully powerful note to finish up on. And I would just like, in relation to that, to ask you, what is one thing you wish that everybody just knew, not necessarily even in their heart, but it was just so obvious to them that perhaps it isn't right now?
That they're creative, actually. You know, that they have that power available to them at any time. Like, we're all creative. It took me a long
Yeah.
time to learn or remember that about myself.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, that they're creative.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you, Nicola. That is just, it's been so joyful to chat to you today and to see your lovely face again.
Oh, thank you so much, Zoe. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you as well for Carly Unbound that's behind me. Just
Well,
such.
you know, she's described perfectly the energy you were talking about as well, that kind of unruliness.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That unruliness is definitely coming through strongly at the moment. So maybe that's, she's activated that since she's been here.
Yeah. But the chaos is needed, right?
Yeah,
We need that chaos in order, because if everything is perfectly balanced all the time, then nothing really changes or grows or yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's where the magic is. Definitely. So we do
Cool.
need it. I just need to remind myself of that quite regularly.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's been the year for that, for certain.
Definitely.
Oh, Nicola, where can we find you?
Um, the best place, you can come to my website, nicolahumber.com, and that's got links through to the Unbound Press as well. Or on Instagram, I'm at Nicola Humber. That's my favorite place to hang out on social
Yeah,
media.
yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure, honestly. And I hope to have many more chats with you.
Oh, me too.